Please add your name and affiliation to the list of attendees so we know who's been joining the calls. And then I will pause for a moment and give people a chance to add anything else to the agenda if it's not already there. So if there is something that comes up, feel free to jump in throughout the meeting or to tag it in at the any other business section, and we'll deal with it when we get to the end of the meeting. Great, then we do have a lightning talk scheduled this week. Longyu, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm on the call.
Okay, do you want to take over sharing to give the lightning talk?
Yeah, sure. Could everybody see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay. Good day, everyone. This is Longyu, and today I'm going to introduce how to check if a test failure is machine-specific on Jenkins. So I will introduce 3 points. I will start with the first one is for label parameter for Jenkins machines. So on Jenkins, when we want to run a build, we can build it with parameters. So for parameters, we can put a lot of parameters such as the OpenJ9 repo and the branch. And in those labels, in the parameters, one is called label. So label is actually the machine name used for Jenkins. If we leave it as blank, it will randomly select a machine that fits the requirements. However, if you say a machine failure in a issue and you want to run your test specifically on this machine, you can copy the name of these machines and then paste it in the label here. In this way, your build will run on these specific machines. So this is the first point about the label parameter for Jenkins machines. So the second point is if I have already had a build, how do I rerun it on the same machines? So I will introduce to run it with the same target and rerun just a single test from a list of tests. So for example, for here, this is a build I run before. We can see it is unstable, and this one is the label for the machines it runs on. So if I want to rerun the whole target, the target here, it is sanity functional. So for here, we got a function called rerun in ground on the same machines. So if we click this one, it will copy all the parameters of the previous build. And for the label part, we can see it had already put the name of the previous machines. In this way, it will rerun the same target on the same machines. So this is how do we rerun the same target on the same machine. So another situation is you can see this test is unstable. It means some tests in it failed. And the target here, it is sanity functional. So I got a lot of tests in this target. If I just want to rerun the failed one, how do I do it? So on the left side, we have a function called the type extended test results. So if we click this one, we will see that for this target, we got a total of 339 tests. And during this test, just one test failed. It's not okay. So what we can do is we can browse to find the name of this test. So in this case, it's command line test PR test. So we copy the name of this test, and then we go back to the previous build, and we rerun in ground on the same machine. So when we click this one, if we check the labels, we will see the label is still the name of the previous machines. So it will rerun on the same machine. But for the target, it is what the same as the previous build. It's sanity functional. So if I just rerun the failed ones, I just copy the name of the test that I want to run. So in this way, we will be able to rerun a single target on the same machine. So this is the point of how to rerun on the same machines. Then you may have another question. Is I got a test field on the previous machines. I want to test on another machine to see if it just related to that machine. So in this way, we got two ways to run on another machine. One is the lazy way. So we run with random machines, and the second way is to select another machine of the same type. So I will introduce this one. So if we go back to the build here, for above the function that you run on the same machine, we get to run in the grinders. If we click this one, it will leave the label blank. So what it will do is, for here, this is what the types of the machines. So we can see we got a bunch of machines that are the same type. So if we just rerun it without the label, it will randomly select a machine from here. So I will show it the rerunning grinder. So in this way, it will leave the label blank and randomly select a machine from here. So there is, because we got a lot of machines, so there is a very large chance that it will rerun on another machine instead of the previous machines. So this is a lazy way to rerun it. So another way is, if I just want to make sure it runs on another machine, you can copy the name of another machines, and then after you click the rerunning grinders, in the label part, you can put the label of another machines. In this way, you will be able to make sure that your build runs on another machine to test with different machines. So this is my talk for today. Thanks for watching. Any questions?
I don't have a question. I just want to add here, since we're talking about label, if you go back to your grinder, there is, if you see the one parameter below, there's label addition. Basically, that's a parameter append after the label. So in some cases, you may, if you don't want this addition, then you can remove it. Just because we're talking about label, so I thought I may as well just mention that as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Longyu?
Actually, I have a question for the community, which is how many people were aware of this feature and use these rerun features at the moment? I'm hoping many.
Simon here. I do.
Yeah. Yeah, you're our power user, Simon. And then the other thing to note is that Grindr wiki link on this page for helpful hints on what all the things mean. I think Mesba may have mentioned it last lightning talk as well.
Yes.
When in doubt, you can refer to this. Longyu.
Okay, thank you. So I will stop sharing.
Thanks,
Actually,
Longyu.
one other thing from my experience to watch out for is to not accidentally leave the platform untouched when you put a label in, because if you put the name of your machine thinking that all is going to be great, but you put in, say, the name of an IX machine, but you've led the platform to Linux, then you get weird messages about the Java you're trying to run not being executable. So just a bit of my experience there.
Yes, we need to modify other parameters based on what is the types of the machine is. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point, Simon. When we're downloading from nightly or releases, a person could indicate what version and what implementation they go and fetch, but you still need to put the platform. And we don't do any additional checking. That we assume the user is going to match the platform to the, if they are putting a hard-coded label or a machine into the label value, that it matches the platform.
I thought I'd mention it because I've been doing this for many, many weeks and I still forget.
Good point.
All right, then I will take over the sharing again, and we'll jump back into the regular agenda.
Okay, thank you.
So let's take a look at the recent user raised issues and see if there's anything that needs some attention. There's nothing here that looks like it hasn't been having some conversation. So it looks like there's starting to be some discussion in any of the more recent items. Is there anything older that looks like it needs some attention? Jump back to the agenda. In the interest of time, I think we can skip the download stats unless there's something somebody wants to take a look at there. So that brings us to the running the extended OpenJDK testing at OpenJ9. Pete, this was something that was on your list to circle back to. Has it made it all the way up to happen yet?
No, not yet. Maybe I'll give it a shot this afternoon.
Then we get to our 0.27 release with the code split coming up on the 6th. So if we take a look at that milestone, I see that the numbers have come down since last week, but there's still almost 100 items that are open in here. So that's a lot of items to try to get closed out in the upcoming week. So please, if there is an item that you have in here that's close to completion, let's try and get them over the line this week. Let's try and get anything that needs to be completed closed out. And if there's something that needs to be moved forward, please do move that forward. It's essential for setting expectations around what can be closed out, that we track these things properly. Is there anything in this list that needs some discussion? Paging through slowly to give people an option to, there's something that jumps out at them. So please do take a look. If you own something in this list, let's get it closed out. Let's get it out of this list. All right, then the first sort of major item we've been looking at for this has been the method handles migration. Babneet, do we have an update on this?
Yes, Dan. So a number of functional issues are still being worked on. And I think requirements slightly changed. We added few issues which were seen in the OpenJ9 Sanity functional test suite into the requirements. So we will need to get those failures fixed because I think they're related to security. And the JIT is still working on performance data. We don't have any performance data to make a decision on yet. And a number of PRs are still open and in various states. Either someone is fixing functional issues related to those PRs, or they are going through review, or they're waiting on other dependent changes. So I feel that we won't be able to make the 7th June split date for enabling OpenJDK method handles. So we will need to revise the date, and I will have a discussion with the team leads in the meeting or in the Scrum on Thursday on what the new revised date needs to be.
Yeah, looking at some of the issues that have been, or the pull requests that have been opened, including the support for hot code replace, in particular FSD support. And I'm just slightly concerned about this being ready and stable enough to make the transition for this upcoming release.
Yes, I agree with you.
It would be good to have an understanding of what would happen if we had to push this out and not include it in 0.27 and only release it in 0.28.
There
Right.
will be no negative business impact because these changes are only critical for delivering JDK 17. So even if we don't enable it for 2.7, there should be negligible impact.
Okay. It's worth having the conversation you mentioned earlier with the leads, but unless there's some critical information that comes out there, I am leaning towards seeing this moved out of 0.27. Just the risk seems quite high at this point.
Understood.
So if you can update us next week on how that discussion has gone.
Next week, I think I will be on leave. So I think either Toby or Jack will provide updates for the next few weeks.
Okay. Thanks, Babneet.
Yep, no problems.
Is there anything else we need to discuss for the 0.27 release? And we'll skip over the 0.28 release as well, though just a reminder that there is that milestone there, and to be starting to think about the JEPs that have been assigned to that release and the other features we need to get completed for that. I know it always feels like we have a long way to go, but those deadlines creep up very quickly.
I was thinking we could pencil in the code split date. I was just looking at the calendar. August 8th seems the right date, just to give people an idea.
Sounds good. If August 8th is the code split, that's probably just trying to pull up a calendar.
If you want to fill in more dates, M1 would be August 9th. The GA date is September 14, and M2 could then be the 29th of August. These are tentative. We could change them around a little bit later if we wanted to.
Those sound pretty reasonable to me. If anybody wants to call out concerns with those dates, feel free to do that either in this call or in future calls. Just being somewhat cognizant of the time, we'll move on to the general update from Adopt.
Yeah, generally, as of this morning, we have the three-way agreement signed to allow us to access TCK material. Given we had May 26th as a milestone one, where we had planned to do Mac, X Linux, and Win64 JDK8 builds, including the TCKs, and we've slipped that because we didn't have any TCK materials. We will try to catch up and download and set up. The private Jenkins server is set up. All the jobs are generated. We just need to do the next steps as outlined in that Adoptium issue 3. Other notable things that may be of interest. We attached ZenHub to the Adoptium org. It's free to use for open source projects. This way we'll have one single board that we can manage the test repos by, since there are 7, and rather than have 7 different projects, having a single project with different workflows and epics will be a lot easier to manage. And then finally, I guess 2 other notes. Outreach interns start drafted last week, which means we have some interns at the project working on accelerating and improving some of the test pieces we have. We also have a desire by the Adoptium working group to accelerate the story of the marketplace. Generally, they want it to be ready by the July timeframe. This was never the original plan, so it means we're going to have to look at reshuffling some of the priorities and seeing if it's possible, what we need to do to make it possible. And that's the update.
Shelley, does anyone have any questions? Then Adam, is there an update on the infrastructure?
Yeah, so we're just working through some remaining issues with the new Jenkins. We did shut off the old one and we reopened Artifactory, so developers may have noticed that they don't have to enter username and password to download those binaries anymore. That's good. I made a change to try and increase the session timeouts, but I'm not convinced it actually took effect. So I'll have to look at that one again. There is a problem with our Artifactory cleanup. So we were missing a plugin that was fixed, but the cleanup that runs during the builds to say only keep the last 10, for example, it just sorts on build number. And since we reset build numbers on the new server, it just goes and deletes the one that it just made rather than the old ones, which have a larger build number. So I was trying to figure out if I could work around it different ways, but I'm going to have to probably adjust the code to handle that based on date rather than just the build number. So I have to get on that soon because we're up to 89%. So that'll be the next thing. Other than that, I don't think there's been an update on the Arch system, and I don't think we've had any updates for the old Ubuntu 16 systems. That's it for me.
Thanks, Adam. Any questions for Adam? Devin, do we have an update on the CMake migration?
Yeah, so for the ZOS stuff, there's just one PR that I need to kind of circle back to. The only thing holding it up is I just need to gather some background info on pilot crash that I work around just to get version information and specifics on the compiler message just to make sure that we can get rid of the code once it's no longer an issue. So I just need to circle back and get that info from one of the machines. In terms of the cross-compiling stuff, the changes for support are merged into 11 and next. The PR is open for 16, and I'm just currently working on backporting that to 8. So the support's there, but it's not. We're not using CMake by default still. If you're cross-compiling, so if anyone is cross-compiling and wants to try running the configurator with -- with -CMake, tell me if it breaks your workflow. That would be appreciated before I go and try to enable that by the default, because we do not have any cross-compiled jobs on any of the Jenkins machines, it seems.
It'd be worth reaching out to Kono-san on Slack and asking him to try that. Yeah. Not on the meeting, so I'm not sure how he would find out. We don't contact him directly.
All right, I'll ping him.
Thanks.
Probably also worth reaching out to the people looking at Risk V support as well. There's a channel on Slack for that as well. Was someone else going to say something there? And we'll move on. Marius, are you on the call? Don't see Marius, so I guess we'll skip over the update on JIT server. Just an FYI that the next microJIT meeting is on June 3rd. In terms of snapshot restore, I don't have much of an update, just that we're continuing to look at CRIU and some of the background tasks to be able to make that happen. Toby, do you have any other updates there?
Yeah, so I'm going to start doing some work just preparing build flags and configure options to enable some of that stuff. I'm hoping to get help from the RELNG team to set up CRIU on some of the lab machines, so at least we can start compiling some builds with checkpoint restore support, and this will enable us to have a common build that ourselves as well as Open Liberty can use for experimentation.
Thanks, Toby. Jack, do you have an update on Project Loom support?
Yeah, so I am still working on getting the virtual thread to run on top of the carrier thread. I think there's some stack configuration that I'm setting up incorrectly, which is causing me all the crashes. So I am working on getting that fixed so that I can start testing with a basic example of running the virtual thread on top. Other than that, I don't have much update for the Project Loom.
Thanks, Jack. In terms of Panama, Cheng or Babneet, is there an update?
Hi, Dan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. For phase one, I think it's the code out there is already ready for merge, but we're still waiting for the OpenJDK master handlers to merge first at first. So it's pending out there. And for phase 1, 2, 3, and alignment issues looks like it's coming from the LibAPI Windows. So we're going to replace the whole LibAPI on x86 to the latest version. The results on the Linux looks pretty good. So I'm trying to solve the problems, combination issues, Windows. I need to talk to the Devin about how to get these issues fixed. So yeah, that's everything from my side.
Thanks, Cheng. Babneet, is there an update on the foreign memory access piece?
Hey, Dan. I think it still needs to be assigned to someone. I think we have tentatively chosen Eric Yang, who's going to be the new co-op to implement it. So I think in the next few weeks, he will be providing updates on how the implementation for JEP 393 is progressing.
Okay. Thank you. And Peter, I see you have an update here.
Yeah, we're about out of time. We don't have to have a big discussion about it right now. I did put it out on Slack, but there's a guy who showed up quite a while ago who started fixing spelling mistakes in our code. He's got some tool to help out with that. And he said he has a marketplace GitHub action that we could enable on our project. It would run on every pull request and comment on spelling problems. I don't claim to fully understand how it's going to work. And we didn't actually finish fixing all the spelling problems that we have, so it could call out some things that we're not willing to fix. I think we fixed everything in comments, but we didn't fix all the spelling mistakes we have in code. But I think to enable it, it looks like we just have to copy a YAML file on a bunch of empty dictionaries.
Has there been feedback on this approach? Are people interested in updating spelling issues when they're merging pull requests?
Keith said he agreed with turning it on, and somebody else gave a thumbs up.
Would we block pull request merges on this?
No. It would be up to the committer to take a look at the spelling and the job that comments on the spelling and ask the committer to make any changes that they think are necessary. I mean, obviously, if you've misspelled something in some comments, you should fix it, or something in new code, it would be a good idea to fix it if it's something that already exists. Probably we don't want to fix it in any new pull request.
I think the place this would be most valuable would be in documentation related PRs. Unsure of the utility of worrying about spelling as much in the rest of the code, but I have a strong feeling there.
Yeah, I mean, I reviewed all the ones where we fixed the spelling and comments, and those were easy to get in, but it's a lot more work to do changes to the code, and so that never really got off the ground because it's just not a priority.
But some of the changes in the comments were JavaDoc comments, and so those surface in JavaDoc. So those are worthwhile. And like I said, I think it's worth a try. I don't know, we should spend a lot of time on it, but
yeah, if it's annoying or nobody's using it, we could get rid of it. But yeah, I agree with Keith. We should just turn it on and see how it works.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. As long as we have agreement that we're not blocking PRs from being merged. Because I think there are times where it will be more important to get the PR merged, regardless of the spelling, and maybe come back and clean up spelling later.
Yep, that makes sense.
All right, then I guess we will call this here for today. Thank you, everybody, and we'll meet again next week.
Thanks.